Hello, everyone. Hello. If everyone could please take a seat so we can kick off this afternoon, which is going to be full of interesting conversations. So my name is Kate Bolingaro, and I am the managing editor for Europe at MLEX. I'm the moderator for this panel. And I'd like to invite our speakers to please join me on stage. Hello, how are you?
With the order of the pictures. Yeah. So try to recognize your face.
We match the picture.
Yeah.
So first step, easy, done.
I am Katie. Sandra, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So with me today, I have Michele Centemero, who's the EVP of Regional Services Leader Europe MasterCard, Sandra Sarav, Deputy Secretary General for Economy and Innovation from Estonia, Minna Hella, the CEO of Technology Industries Finland, and Katie McGinty, Vice President and Chief Sustainability and External Relations Officer at Johnson Controls. So thank you, everyone, for being here with us today. We're going to talk about data and data for innovation and what will the world look like in 2030. Data is the driving force behind the next wave of innovation. The ability to harness and share data will shape breakthroughs in AI, healthcare, sustainability, and beyond. This panel is going to be looking at how data-driven insights are unlocking new frontiers, transforming industries, and reshaping the way we live and work. With the EU's Data Union strategy laying the groundwork for a thriving data economy, how can Europe maximize its innovation potential? What incentives do companies need to embrace new data ecosystems? We're going to take a look at best practices in data sharing, emerging opportunities, and the role of international data flows in Europe's export-driven economy. So we do have a poll for this panel. So if you're with us in person or online, please do give us your opinion on what is the biggest barrier to data-driven innovation in Europe. Is it regulatory uncertainty, limited data sharing, or lack of investment? And we'll come back later on in this discussion to find out what the results are. So let's jump right in to the first question. My first question is for you, Michele. How is MasterCard leveraging data to drive innovation, and what groundbreaking advancements could we see in the next 5 years if data's full potential is unlocked?
Thank you. So let's start saying that we are living in a world that is collecting data every day. So the expectation for this year is to reach 200 zillion of data stored globally. As MasterCard, we are collecting 19 petabytes of data every year, coming from the 150 trillion of transactions, right? So it's a big number. But we are assessing the data in a very pragmatic way. So MasterCard is privacy by design because we don't know the user. The user is only known by the banks that issue the card. So we know that we have a card issued by, I don't know, UniCredit, spending in Milano or in Brussels, doing certain things. And this is tremendously important because managing such a big amount of data and working closely with the bank, we can double anonymize this data, and we can create lots of information that can help SME, merchant, bank to do differently and a better business. This is absolutely important. And the same passion to keep the customer integrity at the center is used for AI. We use AI since more than a decade. And we started using, obviously, machine learning, predictive AI, and now generative AI. Why I'm talking about AI? Not because it's a buzzword, but because we use in 3 major areas. So to keep the payment protected, to keep the information of the consumer protected. The second area is to be able to customize even better and more the experience for the consumer. think about the new engagement in e-commerce, right? So now you can activate a conversation with, I don't know, Michael Kors in the US, starting saying, I need to attend the graduation of my daughter, so help me in, choosing the appetite. Because customer and consumer are looking for a support by AI, so they are looking for someone that can simplify even more the journey. But what is important for this audience is the third bucket, and for me is the digital identity, meaning that the digital identity can unlock not only the payment, but can unlock different potentiality in everything, and the connection between a government, corporate, the community is exactly in this direction. So let's focus all together in the digital identity, how to simplify, how to extend this line of business, how to keep protection of the data, and why not to enlarge also the data contents that are part of the digital identity, right? You can start not only for the biometric, not only for the private information, but you can extend to everything, including the size of your body, right? For the e-commerce, and you can simplify a shipment and reducing the movement of goods because you don't need to ship back. So identity as part of the data is completely managed by artificial intelligence, and this is the area in which altogether we need to partner to simplify and to keep the privacy, the centricity at the very core.
Sandra, Estonia leads in digitalization. How has data been a key to improving services for citizens and businesses?
Sorry, Estonia leads in digitalization. Yes, it does. But the second part of your question?
How has data been key to improving services for citizens and businesses?
Well, I mean, without data, there are no services. And I think we've only started talking about data when we have started talking about new technologies, because we need to share this data. But data is anything. I mean, anything we do produces data. Estonia started with digitalization at the end of 1990s already. And we didn't speak of AI. It was probably one of the AI winters at the time. We didn't speak of AI or big data or data analytics. But whatever we did, we still based our decisions on data. And for a small country such as Estonia, there is no other way. If we are not efficient with using proper data for decision making, then we're not efficient. Estonia is a country of 1.3 million people. We're the fourth smallest EU member state. However, as of end of last year, Estonia is 100% digital when it comes to government services. Do you know what is the last service that we digitalized in Estonia? Yes, it's a divorce. So as of end of last year, you can now also get a divorce online. We wanted to hold back because there were too many divorces happening, but we still had to digitalize it finally. So now my parents can also get a divorce. But as I mentioned, for any of the decision making that we do in government, we focus on data, and it's just that we cannot afford to do anything in any other way. So data is not a buzzword that only came along with AI. And I mean, but we have done things wrong as well. In Estonia, we just figured that even though we are 100% digital, for companies, there are 420 different reports that companies need to submit to the government. And this is not the worst part. The worst part is we took those reports into bits and pieces, and we realized that we asked too much data. So these 420 different reports amount to 60,000 different sets of data we ask. And this is not even the worst part. The worst part is that 90% of this data is duplicated. So we started taking these reports one by one, started standardizing the data. And last year alone, when we took only 3 of the main reports, which consisted of 3,000 different data sets being asked, we got them down to 80. So we reduced for 90%. So for us, using data is to make lives easier for our citizens so they can get a divorce faster, and for businesses so they can actually work on the business content that they need to do as opposed to reporting to the government.
And Minna, how is Finland's tech sector using data to fuel innovation? Any concrete examples?
Yes, thank you. Happy to be here in the panel. I think the most important things are trust and collaboration, in this order. first trust and then collaboration when we talk about data. Of course, we are not so good in AI use, as we saw earlier when Cecilia started this event. She said that only 14% of European companies uses AI, and we all know that AI uses data. And when we think about companies, if you don't collect data, use AI, then you are dead. But using the language models, it doesn't bring any competitive edge because everybody's doing that. So you have to have something more. Maybe use your own data, and better still, use the data that you have in the value chains between companies. And that requires collaboration. Data sharing, I think, is the key for innovation, because the innovations don't necessarily are built there in the companies, but they are built when you collaborate with others, with other companies, your customers in the value chain. There, the best innovations are there between the companies. But it's not possible if you are not willing to share information and share data. And that's really difficult, because you don't do it if you don't trust. And let me tell you that I know something about trust, because actually I used to be a strike negotiator. I've been in technology industry now for 7 years, but before that I was a strike negotiator. And strikes are conflict situations, and I've negotiated about 50 very difficult conflicts at the labor market. And I've seen in the negotiations that when people don't trust each other, they won't tell anything. They just keep back. They hide their motivations, they hide their interests, they hide the knowledge. And if they don't give it out to the other party, then it's impossible to negotiate a result, because you need information in negotiations in order to get a result. And if if information is shared, then actually the result can be 1 + 1 can be 3. It can be more than what the parties have. And the same goes to companies as well. If you are trusting the other companies in your value chain, if you trust your customers, you can actually innovate more. 1 + 1 can be 3. And I think this is the key element. And how we have tackled this in Finland, we have this innovation tool, which is called the lead company model. And it means that when there are certain areas where we want to have more innovation, for example, health tech or AI use in manufacturing, then there is a lead company chosen. And the lead company, which is usually a bigger company, creates an ecosystem with smaller companies, research institutions, and then they start to innovate together. And then public R&D money is allocated to that ecosystem to foster innovation between the companies, between the large and small companies, and the research institutions are there also. And I think this is a really great model, because it enhances trust in the ecosystem and enhances innovation. And I think this is something that can be used and should be used also at the European Union level. So this could be a path forward to have more innovation and more commercialized innovation and more scale up, what we have been talking here all day. And this has, when we talk about numbers, in 4 years this has created over 2 billion euros of private R&D funding from the companies, this model. So I think this could be a path forward for Europe.
And Katie, from your perspective, how is your organization approaching using AI and data in its sector?
Yeah, indeed. Well, maybe I should start first. A big thank you to be able to participate. This has been an incredibly stimulating day. So my company is called Johnson Controls, and it may be one of the oldest companies that you never heard of, but we're 140 years young, headquartered in Ireland, and we are totally about buildings. So we do building operating systems, and I think for this gathering, uniquely, we have an end-to-end digital platform that knocks the silos down between those operating systems and enhances the operational productivity of buildings. So in terms of a vision, picking up what does the world look like in 2030, so the vision that we have is that these buildings become autonomous and generative. What do we mean? So they are generative of more energy than they're consuming. They're generative of more water than they're consuming. They're generative of clean, healthy air so that people are happy, healthy, and productive in them. If that's a big vision, it is a far shot from where we are today for sure, because buildings happen to be the sector of our economy least penetrated by data. We saw this in the height of COVID. So massive shutdown or drawdown in population in commercial buildings, 80% reduction in that population, but only a 20% reduction in the energy consumed. The reason for that is buildings today are totally analog. They are a giant on-off switch. Really bad things happen when the switch goes to off. The pipes freeze. The building floods. Your computer shuts down, and you did not save your data. We are aiming to change that. To step back and give one other big picture, when we can put digital systems to work, buildings transform from just a dead weight on the balance sheet to an organic, flexible asset that can function like a battery. So in terms of our customers, enabling them to evolve from something that is a big cost center, usually second or third biggest drain on a P&L, to where it is an asset that, for example, can sell power back to the grid. And lastly, I would just say, in terms of where we are right now today with customers, so one pharmaceutical company, just as one example, it was already living in a state-of-the-art green certified building. The problem is without data and digital systems, all of that green architecture is siloed in the basement of the building. When you put the digital platform across it, then the HVAC system is talking to the security systems, to the lights, to the computer monitors. And what were we able to achieve? An 80% reduction in the energy costs of the building, 90% reduction in the greenhouse gases from that building, and especially in a pharma company that found out a little late that they were downwind of wildfires. With data and digital, that building had sensors deployed and wound up with the cleanest, healthiest air. So it's a double bottom line proposition of happier, healthier people and lessened energy bills and greenhouse gas footprint.
Michele, what are the biggest challenges facing Europe's data economy today?
So the first one is the usability of data, meaning being sure to have the right data quality, to have the right access to the data, right? And also to the right level of compliance. So this is why we are working every day to try to remove or reduce the friction about the usage of data. The second one was on screen out as the first in the polls, meaning we need to build a sharing platform, ecosystem, let's call it.
We have it in Estonia. I can tell about you later.
Thank you. You can easily compliment, right? So this is important because, it's so important to connect the dots, to use the data in the right approach, and also to be to play in the right level to unlock competition also, right? Or to put Europe at the same level of the competition. And the third one for me is back on the digital intelligence or identity intelligence that I said at the beginning, because it's so important that we create something at EU level. So in every single country, we are doing lots of investment, lots of good stuff to digitalize everything. But the goal should be to create a right level of integration between all the EU inhabitants.
And Sandra, how is Estonia adapting to the rapid evolution of the data economy? Any best practices that EU policymakers should take note of?
Yes, well, I started with bringing the examples of 420 different reports we have been trying to push at the EU level. I mean, the simplification is something we cannot really wait. And I like what Cecilia said earlier on the stage when she started off with the day, that it's easy to simplify not the existing things, but the things that have not come on the table yet. So in Estonia, we have been, for the past 3-4 years, we have been telling the Commission, please cut down on regulation. We're trying this approach called regulate once only. So everyone knows once only for the data principle, as data only once. But what is not done in the EU correctly is we don't regulate once only. And very concrete examples can come from platform economy. So we first had the DAC 7 directive, which asked for tax data, which is completely okay. You should share this data, who earned how much on your platform. Then fast forward a few years, we had the short-term rental regulation, which was opt-in, opt-out, which then asked from platform accommodation companies to share data, again, with your local authorities. However, the same data was already shared with DAC 7, but within the DAC 7, it was written that you cannot share the data that was used for the purpose of this directive for any other reason. And then we had VIDA, the V18 Digital Age Directive, which again asked for data. So we regulate the same economy from different angles over and over again. We don't regulate only once. We don't even withdraw irrelevant regulations. We just put more and more of those on the table. So this is definitely something which Europe should figure out. The second thing which we hopefully do in Estonia is we listen to the companies. At least in my team, there is no piece of regulation, no governmental degree, nothing we do without consulting with the companies. And I mean, Europe is a massive single market. We have 447 million citizens. I don't know how many companies. It's clear we cannot reach out to all of those companies. But when we speak to the 5 biggest suspects, and which happen to be American tech companies, then clearly we don't understand what we are regulating. And I attend the European Commission, European Council, council meetings as well, but the council meetings, and it's just ministers talking to one another, reading notes, you know, saying, we in Estonia believe that by 2030, and none of them talk to the companies. How can we regulate anything if we don't understand who we are regulating? So we try to make this difference. So
nobody wants to divorce you. Everybody wants to marry you.
Well, I'm already married, sorry. Yeah, and the third thing is really, I mean, we shouldn't, use digital technologies for the sake of using digital technologies. We should only use them if we understand what is the power. I think it was a few years ago when blockchain was all the hype. Name one service you know that is on blockchain, except for cryptocurrency, you know. So nobody uses this hype anymore. So we go along in Europe with any new hype without actually realizing what is it good for. And even worse, we regulate this hype before it can become a hype. So these are the 3 things which I hope we're doing right in Estonia, and I hope Europe can get right as well.
Minna, what opportunities do you see in the EU's data union strategy, and how can EU policymaking in data sharing better support tech-driven industries in Finland?
It's very good to continue to what Sandra talked about, the companies. I so agree with you. I think EU should not work on the companies, it should work with the companies and really listen to the companies. For example, our member companies say that they are holding back their digitalization investments because they don't know how to apply regulation. They don't, for example, know how AI Act and GDPR are applied together. It's impossible. So they are holding back. And this is not good because we need growth, and we need that desperately. And only the companies can do it with the help of the legislators. And what should be done? Of course, no new legislation. That would be the first thing. No new legislation, simplification of the current one. Well, everybody has said the same thing today, so I really hope that it's going forward and fast. We really need that. Then we have to, because I'm a lawyer, so and people have to. We have a legislation, and we are going to have it in the future, but it should be really easy to apply in the companies. And we can use regulatory technology to help companies. So all the legal instruments, all the regulations should be made in a way that it can be, like the appliance of it can be digitalized, can be automated. So it should be like RegTech friendly, or the regulation. And then we should, third point, we should advance supply chain digitalization, because, and this links also to reporting requirements. And it doesn't help, for example, the small companies that they are not in the scope of the reporting requirements, because everybody knows that when big companies need the data, they want it from all the companies in the value chain. But if this can be automated, that would be really, really helpful. And initiatives such as digital product passport could be something that could help. So that is a really good, that would be a good initiative, for example. And actually our SMEs say that in value chains, the digitalization and automation of reporting requirements is a must-win battle, because you just can't afford the effort of time that this reporting requires. And then the fourth point on my list would be support the networks. And actually, you can do a lot of stuff with small money. And I have an example of that from my organization. We in Technology Industries of Finland have invested 30 million euros recently to boost AI in the Finnish industry. And we have used 1 million euros of that money to build up an AI network, a new AI network. And in that network, companies, they exchange their experiences, and those who use AI, those who build it, and those who produce it can work together. And we just started this network less than 1 year ago, and now it already has over 400 member companies, this network. And we are a small country, so it's a big amount of companies. And for only just 1 million euro investment, we could build this up. So you should really support this kind of networks, and you really can get the bang for the buck with this kind of networks.
And Katie, one final question for you. How is Johnson Controls harnessing data AI and automation to help your customers reach net zero goals?
Yeah, you bet. So picking up on net zero, so when we think about climate change, people think about solar and wind and electric vehicles, and absolutely key parts of the solution. But here's the bad news. Bad news is that buildings are almost 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So there's no decarbonizing the climate without decarbonizing buildings. Now, right now, it's not the most popular topic to say, hey, let's all take on carbon reduction goals and climate action. And so what we're trying to do with data and digital, but really a trifecta of technologies, it's about efficiency, electrification, and digitalization, changes that 40% of burden on the climate to a major opportunity to bolster the bottom line. We've heard a lot of discussion today about the very unsettling times that we are in, geopolitically, macroeconomics, and even in data, digital AI. It's disruptive. Right now, and I think the insights shared here, business are about capital preservation. Every euro, every dollar needs to go to growth. So how do we tie this decarbonization mission to that imperative? And it's all about when you put the technologies to work, you slash the costs that are not going to growth. I love what I've heard here in terms of the vision of government leaders saying, we can be a convener to bring businesses together with new technologies and solutions. And other businesses might not find this to be a popular thing to say. We don't need money from government. What we do need is, usually when Johnson Controls shows up at a customer, they're like, oh, you're the HVAC guys and girls. There's the elevator, push B. B is for basement, not boardroom. And so to break through and to be able to say, just sharing one example from our own factory, when we broke through and said, we are going to modernize and decrease the emissions from this factory, one, we cut the emissions 43%. The energy cost savings were so great that the upgrades paid for themselves, and we saved $960,000 a year on energy and operating costs. But we gotta be able to get to senior level decision makers to drive that message home, and then to be able to deliver not only the upgrade of your buildings, but because the savings are so great, there's no need for an upfront payment because the savings pay for the upgrade itself. So I think the opportunity to put technology to work for critical industries in the EU and elsewhere to make sure they have the most modern cutting-edge equipment, that they are dramatically cutting operating costs and doing the right thing by the climate all at the same time. So we just need an audience to be able to deliver the message. And government leaders who get it, talking to businesses, I think you're doing a great service. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Now let's go to our poll results. Let's see what everyone here thinks. Can we get that up on the screen? So we see limited data sharing as been identified as the biggest barrier to data-driven innovation in Europe. Interesting results, reflecting a lot of the conversation we've been having now about data and sharing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's about regulatory uncertainty. I think it's about too much regulation. We're quite certain what the regulation is, and we know there's too much of it.
We do have a couple questions from the audience as well, so I'm just going to turn over there. So please, if you do have any other questions, please do submit them, and I receive them here on Slido, and I can read them out for our panelists. Does the current EU regulatory framework, such as GDPR or the Data Act, hinder companies and public sectors from effective collaboration or data transaction?
I think I just already answered that question earlier when I said that our member companies say that they don't know how to apply these two regulations together.
Exactly. And
so there's the answer.
And if these days we talk that Europe, the Data Protection Authority in Ireland is discussing, can we use EU citizens' personal data for training of generative AI because the GDPR might not allow it, then we're going to be screwed if we don't allow to train generative AI in Europe. Then this is going to be the face of those companies who have developed it, and it's not going to be the face of Europe. So we might as well not use it at all then. Yeah.
And Estonia is 100% online. This is about the divorce question. Even divorces, to be an efficient nation, but how is AI used in e-government ecosystem? Okay, yes.
Yes. I can answer that. Back in 2017 or 18, we launched our first governmental AI strategy. By 2020, we had 50 different AI use cases, but it was not, again, specifically seeing where we can use AI, but was seeing which services can we streamline from where should we send the traffic police, considering the previous traffic accidents, fines, etc., to literally, if you become unemployed again, how likely is that this person will become unemployed again, what jobs to recommend them. Of course, now with the AI Act, we're going to see how much we can use those services. To my area, which is helping businesses, so currently we're almost ready with with the basically it's called the Business Viability Index. So based on all the data that companies share with the government, we're going to give you something back. So it's an AI tool that companies themselves can use to see if and whether they become insolvent and what to do differently. So this is based on the tax data that they share, their employment data, how much they pay their employees. So this tool is not for the government to use, it's only for the company to use, and it sees whether I pay my employees too little or too much, so it can be adjusted with the market, and it only compares similar company with a similar company. So it doesn't compare, I don't know, a big grocery store chain with a small grocery store in your local city. It compares a similar hotel to another hotel, and it gives you feedback to the background of what you should do differently. So we build different types of tools, but we build them to see where the problems are. There are way too many companies becoming insolvent in Estonia. So that's why we developed this tool, not that, okay, AI is cool, we should do something with it.
So I actually have a question. If you needed to define what the world would look like in 2030 when it comes to data and innovation in one word, what would it be and why?
Simple, safer, and smarter.
Times 3. I think agile, dynamic, able to be on the front foot and responding to where the opportunities are and squashing the challenges in real time.
One word is not enough, but it's going to be the same or worse as it is now, because it's 2025 now. 2030 is less than 5 years away. If we don't do anything, it's going to be the same. If we keep on doing what we do, it's going to be worse. So in order for us to have a better 2030, we need to change things. And these are exactly the things that were discussed in this panel. Deregulation, simplification, more data reuse, more clarification in terms of how data can be used. Only this way, it's a better 2030 than what it is now.
I think what we really need now is courage to do some bold moves. It's not enough to do some little things here and little things there. We should be brave enough to do bold moves, both in politics and also in companies, because companies are the ones who do it, after all. And the legislatures should have a clear vision and, of course, a lot of ambition. We can't go backwards. We have to go forward. We have to fight the climate change and so on. We have to have really high level of ambition, and of course we need boundaries, but in legislation, and we need legislation. But other than that, and we need standardized systems. But other than that, the regulators should just stay out of the way and let companies do things, innovate, and so that is what I hope. And now that we are talking about the marriage terms and divorce, and before you can get divorced, you have to be married first, and before you get married, you have to go on a date. I think everybody has been on a date in this room. I don't know, for some people it has been longer ago, and for some people maybe recently. But when you go on a date, when you meet someone new and inspiring, you really listen really well. You listen to every word. And you ask questions. Oh, that's interesting. Why do you say that? What are your experiences that you feel that way? And so on and so on. And you really concentrate. This should be something that I would like the companies to be heard like this.
Like you were on a first date.
Yeah, like being on a first date.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Katie, Sandra, Michele, and Minna, so much for your insights and for this fascinating discussion. We're going to let you have a nice afternoon. I think there's going to be a lot more discussions to come. And thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.